to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Back into the kind of standard scheduling of 2025 after sort of the Christmas and New Year period. I hope it's all gone well. Not very much to talk about this week. It's been quiet, as you might expect. I would expect things to kind of now pick up going into the new year, and especially as we've got a couple of big deadline dates coming up. We've got the Build conference coming up in, sort of, well, whenever it is, sort of first quarter, and then also obviously the end of the financial year as well. Microsoft have their financial year in July, but lots of other companies obviously have theirs around April time. It is a big kind of time for budget spending and stuff like that, and that can impact where things come. You sometimes see features get accelerated for that reason, and you never sort of find the backstory for it. But there are things that may come in the next kind of couple of months, I think, so definitely worth keeping an eye on. And then there's all the work that's been happening that just wasn't quite ready to get out in 2024, and that stuff will carry on. And so a little bit of a hiatus this week. A couple of interesting things to talk through though, just things that we missed from the back end of last year. And so the first of those is around GitHub and GitHub Copilot, and the fact that there is now a free version that you can use in Visual Studio. So a couple of things going on there. The first is that there's a free version of Copilot. So this is something that GitHub recently announced called Copilot Free. Very interesting. It's a kind of rate limited or usage limited amount of Copilot that you can use. And this is fantastic if you just haven't yet dipped your toe in the water and tried this stuff out. Definitely recommend it. It will change how you do programming. I think Microsoft know this as well. This is going to be a very compelling sort of upsell trial thing that they do, because you're going to use it and you're going to really like it, and you're going to burn through your usage limit really quickly, and then you're going to feel that gap when you come to use it and you can't, I think. So I kind of confidently predict that this will result in more Copilot sales for GitHub, and I think they know that too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. So the nice thing about this, though, is that really hot on the heels of this being announced, it is you can now use it straight in Visual Studio. So it's not something off on the side that you have to have separate. And this is, for me as well, kind of one of the things that I really struggled with and had to overcome with moving to Copilot as part of my developer workflow, is that if it wasn't in front of me, I wouldn't remember to use it. So having it in extensions, having it inside the IDEs, having it in Visual Studio Code, having it in Visual Studio, and then also in Microsoft 365 as well, having it as part of the chat interface and part of the UI of the applications you use, that's the only way really you're going to train that muscle memory, if you like, to invoke Copilot and invoke generative AI at the times when you need it. Otherwise, I just don't think you think about it enough. It takes a while before you naturally kind of go there, rather than going to Stack Overflow or starting to think about web searching or reference materials and stuff like that. It takes a while to train your mind to think, oh, actually, this is a place where like a GPT could really help. So with that said, this is the blog post. Yes, so if you haven't tried this already, definitely go and sign up for Copilot Free. You don't need a credit card. You just need your GitHub account, and then you'll see it in Visual Studio. It is super early days for Visual Studio integration with this stuff. And as I say, there's a couple of things that are a bit messy. So like it doesn't tell you when you've like hit your usage limit. It just stops working, I think. But they've got new updates coming soon, coming later this month. So they are going to rev on this stuff. It is brand new. So so it should be good. Go check this out if you haven't already. This is definitely one you want to kind of take advantage of if you're not already paying for GitHub Copilot. And even if you are, but you haven't integrated it into both Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, make that one of the first things you do this year, because I think you'll be really glad that you did, especially if you're paying for it, because then you can actually use the thing you're paying for, and you'll remember to use the thing you're paying for as well, which often is half the battle. All right, and one more thing that kind of came out beginning of this year, a few days ago, in fact, but really references last year, is a good wrap up, a roundup, if you like, of what Microsoft did in 2024. And it wasn't all about Copilot, although that was a huge part of Microsoft in 2024. There were other things as well, and I thought this was an interesting take, because rather than just have Microsoft give an update on all the things that they thought were important in 2024, this is from the Directions on Microsoft blog. So this is Mary Jo Foley. Now, they've got an interesting access to an interesting set of data, because they have paid for users who access content. So they have very good metrics on the sorts of things that people are looking for and are looking at and wanting to research. So they've put out a blog post which high level kind of goes through some of the trends that they saw in 2024. So I thought this was kind of an interesting take and worth highlighting, because it's a little bit different. So yeah, couple of different things. So yes, they do sort of say, yes, definitely, lots and lots of stuff on Copilot, but also other stuff. And then they kind of rank the other stuff as well, which I think is useful. Their most trafficked enterprise blog was, the one on Classic Outlook for Windows, which is kind of interesting and speaks, I think, probably to their audience, which tends to be more enterprise IT. So those are the things that they're really worried about: how to keep, Classic Outlook running, for instance. 10 things you need to know before buying Microsoft 365 Copilot. Again, interesting. It's not about like adoption of Copilot. It's more still people thinking about, okay, should we adopt this? Is this the right thing for us to adopt? And if so, how? Some things on Exchange, some things on Fabric, and then some things on Windows Server, a whole bunch of stuff on Power BI and licensing. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, because it's a slightly different kind of news beat to what you'll hear elsewhere. It's not all about Copilot, and I think that's important sometimes. Copilot is a transformative technology. It is going to be super important, but it's an additive technology. It comes on top of all of the other stuff Microsoft was already doing. It doesn't really replace yet a lot of that. Now, 2025 will be the year in which Copilot starts replacing existing technologies in the Microsoft stack. And now you could be pernickety with me and say, oh, it's already replaced things like Delve. And it's like, yeah, I guess it has. But I mean, will we see it, make big changes to, for instance, the Power Platform? I don't know. To reporting, at some point, when you can just talk about what you want, do you need a visual UI? And you could take that all the way down to, Word and Excel and PowerPoint. Do you need, a visual editor in a way to, can you just replace it all with like a, just something you talk to or something you chat with and a generator behind the scenes? Could everything just eventually become Copilot chat? Now, I think that's probably the extreme end of the spectrum. And I'm not sure we'd ever get there, but you kind of see what I mean, right? Over time, Copilot might take some of those workloads. It'll be interesting to see kind of whether that happens this year, whether it happens next year, and how that happens. I think that how is really, really going to be really interesting as well. All right, I think that's kind of all the big newsy things for this week. Like I say, it's kind of a slow one, but I think you'd expect that for the holiday season. Next week, I imagine we'll be back to normal with lots of new announcements as well, which would be good. I'm continuing to work on some stuff for Copilot, declarative Copilots, and the Copilot. Well, I've forgotten the name of it already. The Copilot SDK. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. It used to be the Teams AI library, and now it's called something else. Naming things is hard, but yeah. So all that sounds good, but I shall come back when I've got real things to tell you about those things. But in the meantime, have a great week, whatever it is you're doing, and I'll speak to you next time.